Okay, right. The next important tool to use in Photoshop, or that you might want to use, is called blending options. Blending options are available for both images and text, and they simply enhance that image or that bit of text. So here's an example. So I'm going to do something to these images here. So I'm just going to go and find them first. They're here, these ones. I'll click on Maths first. So just to show and hide, there you go, it's that one. I'm going to right click and I'm going to click on blending options. Think of these as enhancements or effects, okay? So some of the things that you can do include bevel and embossing. So as soon as I clicked it, you can see it kind of turn into a button. I'm going to undo that. You can put a stroke around it. You can do inner glows, outer glows. Some of the things you won't really notice, so they're not really worth putting on. That kind of ruined it, so not that one. Gradient overlay, I mean, that's completely covered it, but what you can do, so let me go back to stroke, for example. When you click on an actual style in blending options, you just activate it, whatever the default settings are. If you actually click on the actual style, you've got access to the different properties or the structure. Okay, so for example, the stroke is the outline, so you can adjust that. So if you think 3 is too thick, you can take it down to 2. You can decide other things like color, so for whatever reason, if you want it red, or you can color pick, then you can have that. Black actually looks a lot better, so I'm just going to leave it as that. And you can do that with other actual styles as well. So if I click on bevel and emboss, again, you can go ahead and click on bevel and emboss, and you can just play around with the settings, so you can increase the amount or the depth of the bevel and so on. So you can have a play around with this. The best thing is to keep things to a minimum. I'm going to leave it as the stroke and the bevel and emboss and just click OK. And you can see that it's gone ahead and it's actually applied it. And I can also see now that my image isn't exactly in the center of my button, so I'm just going to move that along there. And then what you can do is apply the same or similar effects or blending options on the other images. Now, thankfully, Photoshop allows you to do this. Right click on the layer where you've actually put the blending options, copy layer style, and then you can even click across all 3 images, paste layer style. So it does whatever you've done to these. Now obviously for me a disadvantage is, oh no, now you can see that they're not the same size or whatever, so you can just sort that out. Okay, so for English, for example, I would just press Control T to get those transform tools up again, and then I would just make sure that it's the same height. I would even move it next to it, and then, you know, just make sure it's the same height and whatever. There you go, that's kind of the same height, and then I'll just move it back, and then you can just 100% make sure that the actual image is in the center area of your button above. So it kind of looks more in line and better. Okay, and you can do the same to the other 2 as well. So that's how you would use blending options on images. You can also do it to text. So say for example, I take my title, this one, show and hide, that one, yep, right click it, go to blending options. You can kind of play around with the stroke to work in your favor. So if I click on stroke, it's going to add a black stroke, which is ruined it in this case. Let me just take it down to 2. I'm going to click OK, and what I'm going to do is change the color inside. So I'm just going to double click on the T. Remember, that's how you change the color or properties or whatever of the text. And I'm just going to change it to white. And leave it like that. I mean, that doesn't necessarily look better. I don't think I've improved it 100%, but it's just something that you can do to text as well. So you can play around with this and see what works well, what looks good, and use it to enhance areas of your actual creation or your composition that you've got going. You can also play around with the filter gallery. I'll show you that very quickly. That can sometimes enhance your picture, sometimes it doesn't, or your text. Let me show as an example. So let's go to, here we go. Let me just go back to my maths picture. Now I've already put a blending option on it, so I don't really need to put a filter on it, but I'm just going to do it for the sake of example. So you go to filter gallery. So I went to filter and then filter gallery, and there's my image. What you've got here are different kind of effects or filters, if you like. So you can go through them. There's different folders. You've got a brush strokes folder, you've got a distort folder, and you can just decide whether you think it's actually even improving your work. If it's not, then you leave it. Again, the same with blending options. You can change the properties or the strength or the depth or whatever on the right hand side of each of the actual filters. I'm going to leave it because I don't think it's improving my work in any way. So that's it. So that's blending options and filter galleries that can be used to enhance areas of your page.